share various documents you can have a look at. And understanding the rules is a long process, especially if you want to be the best referee you can possibly be. There is a bit of reading, but then at the other end, you don't have to have read all 100 pages of the International Canoe Federation's rules for canoe polo to ref. You just need an understanding of what's safe, what's not safe, and how to help manage the game. As a referee, when you're refing, you're in charge, and almost every single person who plays will listen to the whistle, which means that regardless of what you're thinking, that whistle is exactly all you need, is the core of what you need to do. And as you probably know yourselves, when you're playing and you hear a whistle, the first thing you do is look at the referee, usually. Sometimes when you're refereeing and you blow your whistle, you'll hear you'll hear them all quieting, and they might already know what they're doing. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to run through that, how to manage the game, how to referee, what the rules are, what the hand signals mean, and how to interpret the rules, both as a player and as a referee. So I have repeated myself a few times because several people have been joining. But I believe Ross has a little presentation for us.
I'm not sure I'd call it little.
Yeah.
But we shall have a go.
So I expect that we'll spend up to an hour going through bits and pieces, and that will leave half an hour spare for people to ask questions and have discussion over various photos. And there's no wrong answers as such. I really encourage you to try and express your understanding to various things. So if you're really unsure, just ask, and we'll do our best to help you through. At the end of these two sessions, at the Stramash in May, when all three divisions will meet, we will be trying to offer people who are refereeing the chance to be shadowed, and we will provide, if where possible, some feedback, and basically we'll tick a box to say we're happy that you are comfortable being a referee. It's nothing special. It's not like a referee's assessment. It's just for you to get some confidence and start on that journey of being a referee and understanding the rules better. We will, through the course of this year, be looking for Paddle UK, Canoe Polo to run referees theory and training, and then look at getting you assessed if that is of your interest. So we'll share resources from this meeting, and that will help you all. And don't be shy to email and ask for it, because that's our job. All right, Ross, when you're ready. I think,
Chat, if you're able to, as I go through the ref symbols, are you able to go through what would constitute a foul in each one as I go through them?
Yeah, I can do it.
Super, because I'll be looking at the slides, and I'd rather not jump back and forth between rules and slides for that. First things first, can everybody see this? Sounds like a thumbs up. Cool. Yeah. So, in an ideal world, this is our canoe polo pitch. It's 35 meters goal to goal, 23 meters wide. And regardless of those sizes, you always have 6 meters of a zone or a jostling area at each end. Realistically, though, you'll only ever get this size of pitch when you're playing outside. In a pool, you will just play to whatever size the pool is. Simple as that. These are our wonderful goals. The top of the bottom bar should always be 2 meters from the water line.
Next slide.
1.5 meter internal and 1 meter high.
Can you change your slide, Ross?
Has it not changed on your screen?
It's not, no.
Oh, for God's sake. Sorry, I'm looking at the flipping thing on my side. Why is it doing that? Maybe I need to change which screen I'm sharing.
Just flip them, yeah.
Right, now I can see that. You think 5 years after the pandemic, we'd all be flawless at this? You know what? What to do about this? Can I zoom in a bit? Right. Can everybody see that? Super. So, as I was saying, standard goals, these are the dimensions. Just handy to know if you're putting up goals in a pool or something, the competition goals will always be the right height. I'm going to go through some basic kit stuff first, focusing mainly on safety, but we'll also go into like how the kit should ideally look. First of all, helmet has to come low enough behind the skull to cover the occiput. I apologize to the doctors on the call for if I've mispronounced that, but basically, very vulnerable part of your head there that has got to be covered. I'm getting a thumbs up from a doctor, so it can't be that bad. Face guard has got to come and wrap under your chin. Shouldn't see any part of your jaw or lips, etc., exposed. And there's got to be at least a 10 mil gap between your nose and your chin. I've seen a lot of players, including experienced ones, where their noses actually jut out of the face guard. That's going to do you no good whatsoever if a ball or a paddle comes flying at your face.
And just to make it a little bit more clear, so your job as a referee is also to ensure that the players on the pitch are safe. So the purpose of highlighting these components, the kit, is so that if you are seeing something unsafe on the pitch, you should know that you are allowed, as a referee, to stop play and tell that person to either change their kit and to come off the water.
Cool. On the subject of goals, I'm straying a wee bit off here. Both scenarios we can see here, although in the game the ball came straight back out again off the paddle, both of these scenarios here were goals, which is going back to refereeing, why it's really important, if we can, to have line judges, because line judges can stay on the goal line and tell you, the referee, if it was a goal, no goal, if the ball went out for a corner or a goal line throw. They can give you lots of useful information. Going back to kit now, paddles. Unfortunately, you can't use your lovely glass Werner paddles in polo. There are a whole selection of polo compliant paddles. It's namely about how thick the blades are so they don't injure people, and also the corners aren't too sharp. They are a little bit heavier than the best paddles out there for paddling performance, but you've got to use polo specific paddles for safety. You've also got to make sure that paddles are safe for use, so there's no sharp or jagged edges, no shards of carbon. Um, Again, if you're a referee and you suspect a paddle isn't legal, there will be gauges around that you can check to see if it's too thin or too sharp. But if you deem it dangerous in any way, you can say, sorry, you're not using this paddle. Simple as. Onto PFDs or buoyancy aids. Very simple. You've got to use polo compliant ones. They'll have numbers of the appropriate size on them. You've got to make sure the padding is the correct thickness. A lot of older PFDs, the padding gets compressed and then become too thin for legal use. Jack, do you remember how thick they have to be?
I think it's uh, at minimum 25 mil, but I'm not exactly sure. I wouldn't be too worried
There's
as
tools
long
out
as
there you can easily look up to learn them. When you're wearing the buoyancy aid, it's got to be a reasonably tight fit. And crucially, it's got to be low enough to your spray deck that it should only be about 3 fingers above the cockpit of your boat. If it's any higher, then you can risk injury if a boat comes and tackles you in the chest. Um, Onto helmets again. Good example of what good helmets look like. Polo boats, you've got to have legal polo boats. The bumpers have to be in good condition. You can't just use any kayak. although you can have bumpers taped on if they're loose or you're worried about them falling off, you've got to be really careful that you don't compress the foam with how tight you tape them on. Otherwise, the foam just becomes brick, and you might as well not have a bumper. Spray decks, can anybody tell me why this one on the right is illegal, whereas this one up the left is perfectly fine?
Is it because of the bungee cords on it? Somebody could grab onto them or get stuck in them.
Yeah, so any kind of tangle hazard, the zips or the cords or whatever, yeah, we don't like that in polo. Um, this is kind of like your ideal looking team. So can you tell me what the rules say about what matching kit you should ideally have?
Same colour.
Helmets, buoyancy aids.
Yeah, so helmets, buoyancy aids, tops or rash vests from the upper arm and chest. So if you've got a shooting sleeve or anything like that, that can be a different color. But the upper arm and the torso has to be the same colors. Helmet numbers, any logos on helmets or the sides of the boats have to be the same. And the captain wears a captain's armband. But that is like,
this is the gold standard for when
yeah,
people go
this
to
is this is
Worlds.
like this is not what we expect for Division 2 or 3 Scotland. This
So
is just what you can strive for.
So just to make it clear, for Division 2 and 3, where possible, we'd like to see the same color buoyancy aids, and a good attempt to try and make the boats the same color. Now we know people have some loaned boats from us, and so it is okay if your boats are not the same color, but it's up to you if you would like to make them the same color. So you're welcome to do that, and we'd encourage it because it not only helps us as referees, and I'm speaking to everyone in that sense, as us as referees, it's easier to discern between teams, but also for you as a player, it helps you see your own team. So boats and buoyancy aids is the key one, really, you're looking for. Buoyancy aids is the minimum.
So keeping on the equipment theme, the picture on the left in the middle, what's wrong with those two?
Face guard's not in the right position. I think you can see a very young Mike's chin all the way below the wire of the face guard.
You can indeed see a very young Mike there. And what about the middle one?
Their face guard's too far out, so it isn't properly protecting the chin.
Correct, yeah. And those two scenarios can and did result in the picture on the right. So it's very, very important for your own safety. Make sure your helmet is properly fitted. And again, as a referee, if you're unhappy with any of the equipment in front of you, you can tell the player to get off the pitch and not resume play until they're off.
So you're satisfied it's safe.
Yeah.
That's the critical part.
What about the two, well, in fact, all of them? What's wrong with all these pictures?
Well,
What
the
did I say
buoyancy
about-
aids to the first one on the left.
Yep. What did I say about how big the gap could be between the buoyancy aid and the spray deck?
You said 3 fingers.
Yeah. So that's some very big fingers if that's legal. That is me, by the way, so I'm calling myself out there. What about the middle one? Does that bumper look in good and healthy condition?
The bumper isn't in good condition. They should either get a new bumper or tape it on securely.
Yeah. You hear that, Jack? Change your bumper.
You're talking to 18-year-old me, thank you.
Yeah, Jack definitely didn't turn up to an international competition like this. And what about that boat on the right?
Wrong type of boat. It's a plastic zip-on that you can't put bumpers on. No one's got a helmet, and the person in the plastic one also doesn't have a BA.
Yeah. So even for like very low level training, please make sure you've got the basics of safety right, because my goodness, that will hurt you if that comes into your body. Cool. On to some actual referee symbols.
Oh, and just
So-
before you move on, sorry, Ross. Just the Paddle Scotland. So we have loanable equipment. So when a club wants to get started, we are capable of loaning for free equipment, and that will help you be safe while you practice and and introduce new people to the sport. The last thing you want to do is put someone off because they get injured. So please get in touch if you would like to loan equipment for training.
Cool. So we'll try and run through a sort of game scenario here. Before a game starts, both teams with 5 players with their tails on the line. Game starts when the first referee signals, not the second. It's always the first referee who controls when a game starts, not stops. Second referee can also call that. But after a goal is scored or any kind of restart, it's always the first referee who makes the call.
First referee is the referee who is on the same side as the pitch as the table and scoreboard. And that's important because as the first referee, you can communicate with the table very clearly, indicating things like stopping time. So it's very important that you are communicating with them. So it's talking to the table, making sure your team, who will be on the table, are listening and watching the game, paying attention. Because again, if they're not paying attention as lead referee, you can pick it up and tell them, "Hold on, guys, let's focus. Let's get this right. We need to start the time when the whistle goes." And that's why the first referee is on the same side as the table. So if you're on that side, you're the first referee.
Cool. So top symbol here is what we symbol for start. So restart after a goal or a start infringement. Does anybody know what a start infringement would look like?
So if you had the person following the sprinter closer than 3 boats away.
Correct, yes. Anything else?
Let's say that someone started too early before the whistle, or a boat was over the line. Doesn't matter which boat.
Yeah, same thing. What if someone other than one of the 2 sprinters picks up the ball first?
Yes.
Yeah, so on the sprint start, the first possession has got to be one of the sprinters. Can anybody tell me an exception to that, where you would ignore that?
If the 2 boats collide together, the ball in the middle and it bounces off.
Correct. Yeah. So if the ball bounces miles away and in open water, it's free play wherever it ends up. It's one of those weird clarifications that's not in the main rules, which is always fun. The other one for start infringement is if the ball has not legally entered play. So say you've awarded a side ball and someone blocks the pass before it's traveled a meter, that's a start infringement because the ball has to have traveled 1 meter horizontally from the point of release before it's actually legally in play. Same thing after a restart from a goal, and the same thing for a free shot.
And so the best way to interpret that proportion of the foul for starting infringement is to assess as a person, as a player, as a referee, if how close is that person to the player taking the ball back onto the pitch from a sideline ball. If that person's paddle and their body and their hands are really close to that person, blow your whistle, call a starting infringement, and get them to move away a bit. Because at the end of the day, the best thing you can do is prevent a foul, prevent that injury from happening, especially with a paddle. So if you see someone really close, when that ball's been restarted after play, call a starting infringement, and the symbol is again that first one there. You call your starting infringement, and nobody gets injured, and everybody's happy because you've basically predicted it.
Cool. The other thing as well, the sprint start has got to be unimpeded. So the person sprinting has to sprint entirely on their own steam. Their teammates can't push them or help them in any way whatsoever. Completion of half or full time, that's very simple. Just cross your arms and blow your whistle 3 times. Can anybody tell me what happens if the ball is still in the air when you begin your end of half signal? So if the ball is still in the air, whatever happens between that point and the ball going dead will count. So if the whistle goes and the ball's in the air and the ball drops in the net, then it will count as a goal. And on that note, signaling a goal, 2 hands pointed initially at the goal and then back towards the center of the field. Disallowed goal, you simply wave your hands back and forth at hip height, or thigh level as the rules say. Can anybody tell me what would constitute a disallowed goal, or an example of one?
A foul before the goal.
Yeah, any foul whatsoever before the goal. What if the whistle was blown and then there was a goal? What would you call then?
Disallowed. You have to go with whatever the call, when the whistle was blown, what that call was for
Yeah.
first.
Yeah, so even if the foul blown was in favor of the team who scored, the foul would have to be taken correctly, i.e., presented properly and then taken. You can't just carry on and ignore the fact the whistle was blown. Sidelines and corners, that's pretty self-explanatory. You just point in the direction of play and point at where the throw should be taken from.
So to help with the upcoming Division 3, the ball is out if it touches the sides of the pool. So it's not just whether it's on the side, it has to, if it touches the side, it's out on a sideline throw. And it's the same if the ball touches the imaginary back line that goes from the face of the goal up to the ceiling. So if the ball touches that line, the ball is out. And so that's when you would call either a goal line throw or a corner. This doesn't apply for when the ball goes in the net. The ball has to completely pass the face of the goal for it to be a goal. So that's the only difference to the line. Anything else, if the ball hits the roof or it hits some people train with their slalom lines, if the ball hits a line above the pitch, so it hits infrastructure of the building or the facility, that's also out. Just to be clear.
Yeah, so if the rope that's holding the goal up keeps the ball in play, you basically pretend that it didn't happen and still count it as out. And if the ball leaves the pitch, it's the team who did not touch the ball last. It's their possession. Goal line throw, very similar to a corner. You point along the goal line and the direction of play. The wee T here, that's for timeout. You give a triple blast of your whistle again to get the table's attention.
And it'll just be useful to know. So it's absolutely okay to call a timeout for almost any reason. I mean, obviously, if nothing's gone wrong and the play is happening, don't call a timeout. You might annoy some people, but don't worry about that. The timeout is a tool for you as a referee to stop the game and see and discuss with the other referee what you think you saw happen, to decide on what the foul is. If you see something unsafe and you don't know what to do, you can call your timeout. So your timeout is your moment as a referee to just take a minute and work it out, and the players have to wait. And it's part of the rules, part of the game. That timeout is there for both safety and making sure the refs are happy with what's happening, whether that's a foul or not.
I have a question.
Go for it.
Go for it.
When calling a timeout, how would you discuss with the other referee? Because obviously they're across the court, so they just shout over the field of play, or would you try and circle around and communicate with each other closer in person?
So once you've called a timeout, if you need to talk to that referee, you basically signal come to an end of a pool or some way that you can communicate. If it's a decision which might be contentious, I wouldn't be shouting it across the pool. If it's something as simple as, can we get that ball out of the pitch, or number 5's bumper's fallen off, something like that, yeah, just yell. But if it's like, did you think that should have been a penalty? Then a sort of private discussion at the end of the pool would be useful for that.
At
But
places like Kingston, where you're on the middle pitch, like at the Scottish Open, there's 3 pitches and it's quite a long way. It's still okay to go and walk to the end and talk if you need to. Like, use that timeout to help you make the right decision, or the decision that you think is safest for the people playing.
Just a wee bit of detail on who's in control. If you, as the first ref, end up in a debate with the second referee, it's still your decision on what the outcome is. You can take on the second referee's advice, or defer to them if you believe they had a better view. But ultimately, it's your decision to go with. Has anyone seen a referee's ball given before? They're not all that common.
I think once or twice.
Yeah.
Say.
I've had one happen in the game.
So referees' balls are given when possession is shared for an extended period of time between two opposing players. And there's basically no way to determine who had possession first. Alternatively, if the ball is somehow gone out of play and the referee can't determine whose ball it is, a referee's ball will be given. So a referee's ball is between two opposing players, approximately a meter apart. They both face the side of the pool, hands on their spray decks, paddles to the outside. The referee will then drop the ball between the two players, but their hands must remain on their spray decks until the ball touches the water. If any player tries to play the ball before it touches the water, then it's illegal possession and it's the other player's ball. Does that make sense, guys? Or do you want me to explain it further?
If we're going
Cool.
too fast or you don't manage to ask a question in time, just stick your hand up using the meeting, and we'll pause and we'll go back. We'll circle back just in case anyone's confused about anything.
So on to the
Or feel
relief
free to
flow.
speak as well.
So obstruction. Obstruction is signaled with a closed fist raised to about head height. Crucially, the fist doesn't move; it stays static. Can anyone give me an example of obstruction?
An opposing player using their paddle to block a throw from one player into the goal, maybe.
So you're right, that is a foul, but because it's using the paddle, it will be a paddle foul. But you're right, that is illegal play.
When
grabbing hold.
there's
I
was gonna say,
Oh, I was going to say grabbing hold of someone's hand when they've got the ball.
again, that could be a foul, but it's not obstruction.
Oh, okay.
Charlotte?
when you're not, let's say you're not in the jostle zone, so you're in like the center, and two boats are going for a ball, and another team player basically obstructs or basically gets in the way of one of the other teammates' boats and doesn't pick up the ball.
Yeah, that's a good example. So imagine that you and your teammate are going for the ball, and your teammate picks up the ball whilst you prevent an opposing player from getting to the ball. So what you've done is basically block or obstruct another opponent from getting to the ball whilst you yourself are not playing the ball. Another example of obstruction is if you're tackling a player who's more than 3 meters from the ball. Jack, you got any other examples of obstruction?
There's one other example of obstruction, and it's a little bit more obscure. It is just, and as an example, if you as a player put your paddle or your hand or your body in the way of somebody's normal paddling position. So, for example, you put your arms in front of their face guard. You're not touching them, but you're preventing them from paddling. You're trying to obscure their line of sight and stop them from getting their paddle up. That's also obstruction. You're not making contact, but you're preventing them from paddling where they want to go. So you don't have to make physical contact with your boat to obstruct. It can also be in the way of their normal paddling position.
Cool.
We'll run through examples, by the way. So we're going to
You'll see
get
a
through
lot of
these
them.
signals, and we're going to show you some examples of various fouls, and we'll talk about them.
So illegal kayak tackle, you signal that with a closed fist pressed into your hip. A lot of people call it the teapot foul. I wonder why. Illegal kayak tackle, that is any hard contact between your kayak and an opponent's kayak or their body. So that's on the kayak between 80 and 110 degrees. Anything out with that isn't directly illegal, depends how hard it is, but anything at that angle you can definitely call as a legal kayak tackle. If a player dips under or goes over their opponent and there's minimal contact, it's not illegal kayak tackle. But if you wince and wonder how a boat didn't crack from the contact, it's probably illegal kayak tackle. Any hard contact with your opponent's body is definitely illegal kayak tackle. Same thing if your boat tackles into their spray deck, that's the same story. Anybody got any other examples of legal kayak tackle? Because there's a big obvious one that gets called all the time.
Hitting the keeper.
Yes, hitting the goalkeeper. Well, the definition of the rules: moving or unbalancing the goalkeeper is also an illegal kayak tackle. So not touching isn't enough. But if the goalkeeper is moved or unbalanced by an opponent, that's also illegal kayak tackle.
Directly
What?
or indirectly. So you
Yes,
can move
so-
a defender.
So if I tackle into Jack, who is a defender, and Jack tries to paddle against me, but I'm strong enough to push him into the goalkeeper, technically, yeah, I can see his smirk because that's not happening, is it? Technically, Jack's boat is the one who's hit the goalkeeper, but it's happened because of something I've done and he's tried to prevent it. If he just drifted into the goalkeeper, then I'm not going to get penalised. But if he tries to resist it, then that's my foul. Charlotte, go for it.
Where's the grey area between obviously being a defender? Obviously, you're trying to paddle, but like if your paddle isn't in the water, is that like where is it where if you're trying to paddle to defend it but you're not succeeding? How does that go? Because I remember having it where because there was like two defenders being crushed by someone absolutely just like diving in, and one of them didn't have their paddle in the water. They were like, it's not a kayak tackle on the keeper.
There's a really, really good way as a referee to help you understand whether or not it should be a foul. As the second defender, the one who's being crushed by your other defender, you're unable to paddle. Do you think the goalkeeper being moved is an unfair advantage because you're unable to prevent it? You think the goalkeeper being moved is an unfair advantage to the other team? Does the other team benefit from that situation?
Well, they did. They scored a goal, so yeah. Okay.
So if you feel that they have gained an unfair advantage, I would say that would constitute being that foul that you think you've seen.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, the big one with the legal kayak tackle on the goalkeeper. Did the defender have the opportunity to avoid the contact? So if there was no way of their paddle getting in the water, then they just couldn't. It's not like they chose not to; they simply couldn't.
Chris?
Yeah, would say someone's paddling and they end up with their boat over the other person's spray deck. Would that be classed as an obstruction or an illegal kayak tackle?
Depends how the boat has got there. If the player who ends up underneath has dipped under them and placed the player on their spray deck, then it's not a foul. But if the person who's ended up on the spray deck has paddled over their opponent and got themselves there, then that's illegal kayak tackle. That's a very grey area if you've not seen how it's happened. There's a few pictures I've got of that later. We can have a chat about that. Does that make sense though?
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah. So like it can both be like the exact same image can be a foul and not a foul depending on how it happened. Emily, I think you were next.
Yeah, hello. I was just going to mention the slight exception to when the kayak tackle, tackles the body. The one exception is if your arm is extended away from your body the rule says that it's not technically counted as part of your body. I just thought maybe you should elaborate on that as well.
Yeah, correct. So if you lunge away from your body with your arm to grab a ball, and the kayak of your opponent hits your arm, that's not illegal kayak tackle because you've basically willingly put your arm away from your safe zone, if you will. So yeah, Emily's quite right there. Anybody got any other questions on illegal kayak tackle while we're here? Cool. Illegal possession or 5 seconds. So pretty much everyone should know that once you gain possession, you have got to move the ball at least 1 meter from the point of release every 5 seconds. That's an obvious one. Can anybody tell me any other examples of illegal possession? So if you put the ball on your spray deck and you paddle, that's illegal possession. Same story if you put the ball under your arm and paddle. Particularly with 2 hands on the paddle, what you can do is hug the ball and use 1 hand on your paddle to move. But as soon as you use 2 hands on the paddle, that becomes illegal possession.
The same also applies for hand paddling. So you can drop your paddle and you can use 1 hand to paddle in the water forwards, not 2.
Yeah. If you ever use shot clocks when you play, if the shot clock expires and you still have the ball, then it's also illegal possession. Chris, I think your hand's up first.
No, he's not taken down from the last one. Liam.
Yes, I hope you can hear me. Can you paddle using the ball and a hand?
Yeah, you can.
So can you paddle with like 1 hand on the paddle, 1 hand on the ball, using the ball as like a second paddle?
Yes,
Makes
you
sense.
can.
Interesting.
You've
I mean,
only
it's
got 5 seconds.
yeah. That's enough time to get 2 meters. So yeah, you're quite right, Liam. I mean, you can legally do that. It's going to be difficult, but you can. Always a fun one. Illegal use of paddle. Everyone's seen this symbol before. Can we think of some illegal uses of paddle, guys?
Hitting other players with paddle.
Yep, absolutely. Any contact between your paddle and your opponent's hand or body, paddle foul.
Including head.
Yeah, any part of them. If you pull or push on an opponent's kayak with your paddle, also a paddle foul. If you gain any propulsion from your opponent's boat with your paddle, also a paddle foul. Chris, do you want to go?
Yes. If you hit the ball out of someone else's hand with the paddle, would that be considered a paddle foul? Or
Yes,
at least
yes, I would say it is. So as soon as you place the paddle within hand's reach of an opponent, it's a paddle foul. Same thing if the ball is in the water and you place your paddle to try and play it, and that ball is within hand's reach of an opponent and they're trying to play it with their hand, then that is also a paddle foul.
otherwise, because obviously as soon as you extend your arm out, it's technically not considered as a part of your body. So I was just wondering, in case if that would change the way it's sort of ruled as a foul.
Interesting point.
That clarification only applies to the boat.
Yeah, so however far you can reach, that is your hand's reach for the sake of a paddle foul.
So if you dived on the ball, you capsized to grab it with 2 hands or 1 hand, and the person's paddle's near it, it's still a paddle foul. So you would get the ball if you dive for it.
Throwing the paddle in any way, also illegal use of paddle. Andy, on you go.
Am I right in saying that it's also the entire paddle? Because I think I recently had a foul called against me because I leaned over someone's boat. The blade of my paddle was more outside arm's reach, but the shaft of my paddle wasn't, and that was called as a paddle foul.
That is an interesting point. I've never been thought of that.
So that would so that's upright paddling position. So that would come under obstruction. So if your paddle is within the upright paddling position of a person, shaft, blade, and even if the ball's nowhere near them, and if it crosses their upright paddling position, that's obstructing their ability to paddle. So that's what that would fall under, is a legal obstruction rather than a legal use of paddle.
Another example of legal use of paddle is if you block a pass from a player before it's gone out with their hand reach. So it's the same story as placing your paddle in hand's reach, but if you block it too close, it's the same story. And it's often really difficult for referees to discern exactly where is too close. So if you put your paddle anywhere that's in that grey area, you risk getting a paddle foul called against you. Jack, do you want to go into the new fancy complicated paddle foul rule, or should we ignore that for now?
We'll just ignore it because it's not relevant really for Division 2 and 3. It's very unlikely to occur.
Cool. So play on or advantage, that's signaled by sort of waving your hand in the direction that play is currently going, along with shouting out play on. So the shouting out play on is to confirm that you've seen the illegal play but are just allowing it to carry on. You've not just ignored it.
And as the name of that would suggest, you would use an advantage when the person who has fouled is no longer able to, after immediately upon that foul being committed, prevent that person continuing to play. That person playing who's been fouled is making progress towards the goal. They're able to pass it forward. They're able to shoot and potentially score. If you see that if you stop the play and you think, if I stop the play, this person is no longer going to be able to throw the ball up the pitch to that one player who's sitting under the goal, ready to shoot for them. You would give them the advantage because if you stop the play, they might not get that open goal. So it's a way of letting the game play on, and potentially that team gets something from that.
Yeah. So basically, you've got to imagine if play continues, would there be a near certain goal? If that's the case, then call play on for up to 5 seconds. If the team lose advantage or the pass or the first pass is affected by the original foul, then you simply blow your whistle and point back to where the foul should be taken from, because the team's lost the advantage, and you call it back to the original foul. Something that's often important to remember about calling play on: if the foul that you saw but allowed play to carry on was worthy of a card, you can issue a card at the next break in play. Doesn't mean because play carried on that you just ignore it. Say 4 or 5 seconds pass and a goal is scored, you're within your right to go back and card the player for the foul that occurred. Does that make sense, guys? Cool. Taking throws and free throws and free shots. So what's the difference between the flat palm and the pointed finger? What does that mean?
If it's called a flat palm, you can't then use that initial throw to take a shot, whereas you could dribble it forward and then on the next pickup, then use it to shoot.
Yeah, correct. So the flat palm is sometimes referred to as an indirect throw or an indirect shot, and the pointed finger is a direct shot or a free shot, which, as Kim says, can be used direct at goal. Free shots are always some kind of infringement or foul, whereas free throws are sideline balls, goal throws, corner throws, center restarts, that kind of thing. If someone's being bad, it's going to be a free shot. And in the case of both of these, the initial throw has to travel 1 meter from the point of release before it's in play. And that also goes for blocking passes, etc. So if you block a pass before it's traveled 1 meter, that's a start infringement. That makes sense to everybody there? Nice and simple. Cool. Goal penalty shot, which is 2 fingers pointed directly at the goal. I'm sure everybody's seen a penalty awarded. The question is, when would we award a penalty? What kind of things are we looking for?
If the act of a foul happened and it was as if the person was going to be shooting, let's say they were about actively shooting and then, I don't know, someone moved their hand in the process, that would definitely probably be a dangerous movement, so that could be a card and equally a free shot.
Yeah. So inside, so there's 2 scenarios we should look at here. Penalties awarded inside 6 meters and penalties awarded outside 6 meters. If it's inside 6 meters, then any dangerous or deliberate foul in the act of shooting is going to be a penalty if the goal is defended. If the goal is undefended, then any deliberate or dangerous foul in the act of shooting, passing, or positioning for that undefended goal is also a penalty. Outside 6 meters, only passing or positioning is going to be a penalty if the goal is undefended. If the goal is defended and it's outside 6 meters, it's never going to be a penalty. Does that make sense? Crucially, penalties always have to carry with them a card. It can be any colour to match the foul, but it has got to be a card. You can't give a penalty and not award a card. Emily.
Hello. I have an example where it was somebody on a fast break. So somebody had completely cleared everyone and it was an open goal. And then the person who was passing for the fast break, who was behind the halfway line, was fouled by quite a dangerous paddle foul. And he got a GPS, a goal penalty shot. Because it was a near certain goal, even though the foul happened like way outside of the zone. Can you confirm that?
Yeah, so that is correct. So if you imagine that foul didn't take place and that pass had gone perfectly, then it would have landed in the hands of the player breaking and they'd have had a shot on goal. So these kind of fouls wander into the territory of professional foul, because you, as the suddenly defending team, having just lost the ball, go, oh no, we're going to lose a goal, but not if I stop this pass by whatever means necessary. So yeah, if, even as Emily says, if the foul occurs like at the other end of the pitch, had that foul not occurred, there was a near certain goal, then yes, the penalty is the correct call to make.
When
And
you indicate to the teams that there's going to be a penalty, you make sure that the defending team's goalkeeper is under the goal, so not in front of it, but like their body is in line with the front of the goal. The player taking the shot is 4 meters back, so that means there'll be about just a bit more than a ball's worth of space between the noses of their boat, and everybody else has to be outside of 6 meters. So they have to be the others behind the person taking the shot. And then once you're satisfied and the person who's ready to take the shot, you blow your whistle and they have 5 seconds to shoot, and anyone behind them can now come in to try and receive the rebound. And I'll make it clear, the rebound. So if the person's quick enough and pushes the person in who's taking the penalty because they're taking 5 seconds to throw it, that is still a foul because it's a starting infringement because the ball hasn't traveled a meter. So that's how you set up your penalty. Everybody other than the goalkeeper and the shooter behind the 6. Shooter is 4 meters back with just more than a ball's width between the noses of the boats. Goalkeeper under the net. Go on, Charlotte.
So, for the people behind the 6 meter line, are you saying that as soon as the whistle's blown, they can enter as long as they don't get in the way until the ball goes 1 meter?
They are allowed to enter and make a play
Yeah.
for any rebound of the
Mhm.
ball. And if they're that quick and they can try and block it more than a meter away from the release point, that's fine. But they must not interfere with the person taking the penalty.
Okay. Cheers.
Cool. Has anybody got any other questions around penalties? That's a really, really big area in the game, goal penalty shots. Cool. We'll go on to cards and their impacts. So, any deliberate or dangerous foul can be worthy of a card. You may, as a referee, choose to issue a dangerous foul warning. That doesn't need to be verbalized to the player. Just you, as the referee, and crucially signaled to the other referee, need to be aware that that player has now been given their warning. Any foul to the same level that you just warned them for has got to be a card. So once you've issued a green card, the next card to that player has to be a yellow, and after that a red. You can't ever go backwards in the system. You've always got to increase the level. So first card is a yellow. You can't go back and issue a green. You've got to go forward to a red. The green and yellow cards are power plays, which means if you, as a team who's down to 4 players, concede a goal within those 2 minutes, that card is cancelled, and the 5th player can come back on, or a substitute. If the card is from a penalty and the penalty goes in, the card is also immediately cancelled. Can anyone tell me how a red card differs from the green and yellow? Not an ejection red, just a standard red. Charlotte.
Is the difference when, if it's a red card, you've got 2 minutes, but if they score, then they still have that 2 minutes. And I don't know I can't remember if it's that person can't enter or another person, their teammate, after the 2 minutes can come on.
So you are correct. The red card is not a power play, so it doesn't matter how many goals you concede, the 2 minutes are served in full. After those 2 minutes, another player can come back on to bring you back up to 5, but the player who received the red card cannot return to the field of play. Their game is over. Can anyone tell me what an ejection card, an ejection red might be given for? Anybody?
I had a guy was sent off for throwing his helmet at me, and he got an ejection red.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Years ago. Well,
I've got
I'm not sure fantastic's the right one, but yeah.
Yeah, that is a perfect example. So you being a player or a referee at that time?
I was a player. I
You're a
pushed
player.
him in, and I pushed him in and didn't like it, so he threw his helmet at me.
Yeah, so that would come under personal attack. So that's always going to be given, and it's an ejection red. Any kind of deliberate attack or escalation towards a player or official is always going to be ejection red. Any professional or like very deliberate attempt to cheat, depending on the severity, I would also give an ejection red for. severe abuse towards a referee or an official will also give an ejection red. Christopher.
What do you mean by professional? Like, what
So,
would you put that, and how's it different from what would constitute a yellow or green?
so professional, you've got to weigh up what's happening in the game. So, say it's the World Championship final, and the team you're playing on is ahead by 1 goal, and there's 20 seconds left, but you've just lost possession, and the other team are on a break to score. 20 more seconds, and you've won the World Championships. So you decide, stuff it. I'm going to throw my paddle like a javelin. This guy ain't getting to score. You've deliberately fouled with the intent of massively changing the game. You're aware of the situation and you've gone, yeah, I'm going to really go for this. It's not, there's no argument about, yeah, you got that a bit wrong, the paddle was a wee bit too close. You have very, very deliberately and publicly fouled. It's not subtle, it's not an accident, it's you've gone hell for leather to make sure this outcome doesn't come to fruition. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yeah, so like just a really, really deliberate attempt to foul.
So I would summarize the card system really as a way, as a referee, to tell the teams that are misbehaving what level of misbehavior they're doing and that it's not tolerable. You've called the same foul 3 times for that team, and you think it's the same player, but you're not sure. You've called a legal tackle 3 times, and you're thinking, I keep doing this. You give them a green. Or you see somebody spear someone in the buoyancy aid with their boat, and you think, "Oh, that's horrible. I don't want to see that again." You'd give a yellow, and your red card is that person could have shot and they got whacked in the face by a paddle taking their shot at the goal. I'm giving them a red card because there's no way that was an accident while they were shooting, and ejecting them from the pitch because they javelined their paddle at the back of someone's head because they're on a break. They're off the pitch, and if you ever get to the point of giving one of those cards, which can happen very rarely, always report it to us as Paddle Scotland, whether at the event itself, if one of us is there, and one of us should be there, or by email.
Here's a scenario for you about cards. Say Jack and I are on opposite teams, and Jack tries to score, and I foul him. Not badly, but I still foul him. And say it would be a penalty awarded to Jack's team. What do you think would happen to that penalty if Jack decided to try and knock me out with his paddles because he was really that mad that I fouled him? So clearly, Jack's getting a card. I'm also getting a card because I caused the penalty. But what do you call as the next play as a referee?
Someone else gets to take the original penalty, but Jack's sent off for personal attack on a player.
Yep, that is absolutely correct because it's always the order, not the severity. You still sanction the fouls accordingly, but just because Jack fouled me after I fouled him doesn't mean I didn't foul him. So it's always the order. Does that make sense, guys? Cool. We shall move on to unsporting behaviour. Such a fun topic. Unsporting behaviour, anything which is just not in the spirit of the game. So, say you prevent someone getting their paddles, or you're just really unsporting. Swearing at a referee, unsporting. Excessive jeering or chanting can be viewed as unsporting. Anybody got any other examples?
Throwing the ball away from where a foul's occurred, so rather than just dropping it, actively throwing it in the opposite direction.
Correct. That's a great example. Anybody got any others?
Talk back to the referee.
Yeah, talking back to the referee. Yeah. So personally, as a referee, there's like a grey area where I will ignore some of the chat back, but after that line is crossed, yes, cards. As a referee, that line is entirely up to you to judge.
But especially
Say
if
if
you're new to being a referee, I would try and not tolerate it. Don't let people on the pitch push you around. And this is also as you as a player, and so you're a player on the pitch, and then you try and referee. You know how hard it is to, to referee someone who's talking back to you. And the moment you get on the pitch, you hope that you wouldn't talk back to a referee. Don't want to treat them like you wouldn't be wanted to be treated. And that tolerance level is definitely up to you. But try and don't be a soft touch when somebody's talking back to you, especially more than just a jibe or a short little word, because if you don't stand your ground, they will keep pushing to try and make you change your mind over a decision that doesn't favor them. So it's very important to warn them, especially if they're getting on your nerve. Show them the unsporting behavior, waggle your finger, and if they keep going, just card them. Send them off the pitch, time out, they'll cool off, they won't give you talk back again.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. As a player, if you really want to clarify something with a referee, I think at the level we play in Scotland, there is scope for that. If you're like, referee, what was the foul for? That's, the referee can choose to ignore you. They're not obligated to chat back. But if you ask it politely, I think there's a minimal chance of you getting a card. If you shout at the referee and say that was a foul or that was a corner, referee, you enter the sort of danger zone territory. But if you're polite about it, or equally, if you confess to having touched the ball last and actually it's a corner or a goal throw, I would view that as very sporting. And there's very few referees who will argue with a player who's confessing to giving the ball away, basically. Anything more on that before we go on?
Could unsporting behaviour be given to an audience member as well if they're sort of jeering and heckling the game?
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Good call. Yeah,
In
so
fact, you as a referee have the power to remove a member of the audience. You can card them the same as a player on the pitch, and and if there's someone like, for example, an official there who can help, having an audience member leave because they're unsporting or being or even being abusive to doing professional fouls against the officials and the staff, your table. It is absolutely okay to foul them, give them a card, and they can be removed. So that is something to bear in mind. It can happen. It's happened before, and it was dealt with, and we've never ever seen it again.
Cool. So illegal holding and illegal hand tackle. This is also quite a big area. We'll go with illegal holding first. So illegal holding is gaining support from any of the following things: the side of the pool, floating goals, players' equipment or bodies. So can anybody give me an example of something that would be illegal holding in normal play?
Rolling a ball off a boat, would that technically count?
It depends how much force is involved. It's a very, very grey area, and I suspect Jack might even argue with me on this.
I'm not going
For
to
me,
argue.
no, really.
No.
For me, if the player would have fallen in without the support of that opponent's boat, yeah, illegal holding. If you literally just roll the ball over, would they have fallen in? Probably not. If they're like fully sprawled out, then yes, absolutely.
Additionally, some people can palm the ball, pick it up with one hand, but if you were to see them using the boat to press the ball against so they can get a grip, they're gaining support to get a grip of the ball. So that's the fine line. So it can be rolled across a boat, flicked over, but you can't gain support. And you as a referee have to work out quite what that looks like. It's very difficult. But if you're doing it for the first time, if you see someone rolling over a boat and you wish to call a foul, no one's going to argue. Well, players might argue with you, but if you've made that decision as a referee because you're still learning, you're entitled to stick with that, and you'll get the hang of it. So don't be afraid to call something if you think it looks like it's a foul, especially in that scenario where you're rolling a ball over a boat. If you think it looks like a foul, just call it.
Can you get support of a member of your own team's boat?
Yep, you absolutely
Yeah,
can.
I thought you could. Yeah.
You can also push your own teammate forward. You can push them in as well, but they'll probably crown you for it.
You can,
but
unfortunately, you can basically do whatever you want to your own team, unless it's looking very abusive. But you can push them, get propulsion, gain support, sit on their boat, grab their helmet if you really want. But I probably wouldn't do that to your own team. But yes, your team is not involved in illegal holding or illegal illegal use of paddle or illegal hand tackles. Your team's excluded from that.
Yep. So I think we've covered illegal holding pretty well. We should probably go on to playing the ball. So if a player has the ball in their hands, can you attempt to play the ball? That's always a fun one. What do I think?
Technically, yes.
Technically, yes. I love that. What's the technically?
It depends how they're holding it to start with. As long as you don't put pressure on, like, if the ball's in their hand in one hand, you can sort of flick it towards you as long as you're not making their arm go in a dangerous motion backwards. You can have a go at it.
So for me, if you are able to, with one clean motion, remove the ball from a player's hand and not exert any force on their hand or arm, then that's legal. As soon as that player's arm or hand moves as a result of your interaction, then you've exerted force on them and you illegally held them.
Unless, sorry, Ross.
Nope, carry on. It's a grey area. Go for it.
That specific definition is when the ball is elevated away from the body, so above the shoulders. If the ball is below the shoulders in one hand or two, and you remove it cleanly in one motion without touching their hands at all, that's okay.
Yeah.
If it's above their shoulders, you cannot move their movement of their hand. You cannot essentially move their hand through trying to remove the ball. So it's very, very difficult to do that when the ball's above their shoulder. When it's down low and you flick it out, don't make contact, that's okay. Very hard to see as a ref as well. Very hard to see. If you barely saw it and you don't know if it was clean, call a legal hand tackle. No one's going to complain.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those gray areas where if you go for that kind of play, you risk it, and you've got to accept that. The rules have a clarification that say, as Jack says, if it's raised above their head, it says you cannot do this in the act of passing or shooting. And the clarification of that says the act of shooting or passing begins when the player has the ball raised above shoulder height and is obviously about to pass or shoot. I would say it's not necessarily that obvious when a player's about to pass or shoot. A player can hold the ball above their head for quite some time and do nothing with it. So if you deem it was legal, then it's legal. Simple as that. If you think it was illegal, it's illegal. It's a very grey area, and it changes depending on the time of day. Ejection red. I think we've already. No, sorry, we've not done illegal hand.
Not this symbol.
Yeah. So illegal hand tackle. Can we describe what is a legal hand tackle? What is a legal hand tackle, first of all?
Pushing the player who's got possession of the ball on the upper arm or under the rib cage and back of the shoulder, but not the front of the shoulder, and they must have clear space to be able to fall into the water and not into any infrastructure.
Yeah. So, player who's in possession of the ball, one hand open, push to the side, back, or upper arm, and the push must allow the player to fall into open water, which is not a boat, be it friendly or opponent, or any equipment. If there's a push on the front or the front of the shoulder, or if there's a grab, or if there's two hands involved, it's automatically illegal. Ejection red, we spoke about. To give an ejection red, you quite simply show the symbol there and verbalize ejection red in the most dramatic voice you possibly can so everyone knows how naughty they were. Anyway, shall we move on to some examples? What do we think's going on here?
Illegal hand tackle, as just discussed, upward pressure on the shooting arm.
Yeah, so that is really, really dangerous. If that player goes to shoot, they might really hurt their shoulder. So it's really good we spot these kind of things. It's very easy to miss, but keep your eyes out for it.
That thumb is also around the. Go back. Sorry.
It is, yeah, you're right.
That thumb is also around the front, so they've kind of grabbed. They've not open palm. They've grabbed. And if you look in the background, there's also a boat.
Yeah, correct. So it's like multiple fronts of dangers.
Would anyone give a card for that?
Yes, kind of possibility for significant injury in multiple fronts. At least a green.
Would anyone give a yellow?
If the player went through the throw and hurt themselves, I'd give a yellow, but otherwise I'd just give them a green.
What happens if they fell in? They say the push was successful and they fell in and they hit the head on the boat or their body. Would you give a yellow?
Yes.
Yeah.
What if the player backs off of the shot because of the fear of being injured, because of what that number one is doing?
Couldn't it be a yellow if not a red, because it's a foul with a major impact on the outcome of the game?
I would make it a green, but also a penalty.
Yeah, penalty definitely.
Yeah. Doesn't have to be a penalty. What if it's outside 6 meters?
If it's in the 6 meter zone.
Yeah, if it's in 6 meters, definitely a penalty. If it's a shot. If it's gonna, I mean, it looks like a shot, but if it's a pass, then no penalty. Good one, guys. What about this?
I don't know who that is.
I don't know who that is. Who is that, Jack? I can't see.
I know who it is. What's going on here?
Yeah, what are we seeing here? What are we calling? Like, this is on a sprint start, by the way, for clarification.
Illegal kayak tackle?
Certainly would be.
Yeah. What if both players arrive at exactly the same time? And this is just the
Did
result.
he dip?
Did player 10 dip? In this
Yeah.
scenario, player 10 did not dip.
Then very much a very dangerous foul.
If the player 10 did dip, and the player who's clearly making contact with looks like their face, would you follow that?
Yeah, but I don't think it'd be the same severity.
So in this scenario, player 10 did dip, and the player who's basically upside down continued to paddle forwards.
How did you do
So-
that, Jack?
What?
How did you do that? How did you paddle upside down?
I was leaning.
Yeah.
Over to try and reach for the ball. Anyway,
So,
So-
are we carding this then, guys?
I would say card to player 10 for the dipping in, and it caused the player to
Oh.
possibly injure
I hope you're
themselves.
joking. I hope you're joking.
No,
I
So-
would
I'd say
struggle. I
card.
would struggle to card player 10.
I would card.
the-
Is that Jack that's dipping?
Yeah,
That's
Not
that's
dipping,
Jack. That's upside
dunking
down.
himself.
I'm upside down. This is.
I would card you.
Yeah. So I would probably give a yellow card here, because
Yeah.
the risk of injury is very high, with potential contact to the face, and it's the player who's on top of the other boat to try and avoid that contact, even if the other person dips. So you've got to try and avoid the contact. So I would give me a yellow card, and I'd be off
The
to
yellow. I would
races.
go for a green, but yeah, definitely a card. Moving on.
It's-
What about this? Jack, please apologise to Poppy in advance.
Is it illegal holding? Is there a boat there for?
I'll give you a clue. Max is looking guilty for a reason.
Oh. Illegal hand tackle then. It
Max
looks
just
like
Is
push
that on the
drop.
boat?
someone.
Yeah, so Max has just clobbered Poppy onto one of his own boats.
Okay, then definitely a green card.
Do you think
Or
that shoulder
technically could-
position is very good? Do you think it's a healthy position for your
Is it-
shoulder to be taking an impact?
Is that shoulder on a boat? Sorry.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so definitely a card.
I would
Potentially
say
yellow.
maybe even yellow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yellow.
Ross, you've picked some really good examples here. That's 3 yellows in a row I've given.
All right, what's Bob getting here then? I'm pretty certain that Jack had possession of this mere like microseconds before this frame. So does that look like a clean take that didn't impact Jack's hand or arm there from Bob?
No.
I thought someone was grabbing him.
Yeah, so Bob basically just smashed Jack's arm. Wasn't in the act of shooting, but it was a very aggressive take.
So very dangerous.
So card or just a dangerous foul warning? What do we think?
If it's dangerous enough that you're fouling, you should be giving a card for it.
I would beg to differ there. Not always. It's very much up to the referee.
But it's also going
And
to
it's
be
quite
deliberate. You're
accidental.
not going to smack someone's arm that's holding a ball without knowing what you're doing when in that position where you're facing them.
If
Does
he's
it
moved
look like
Jack's
his
arm,
hand's
that's
moving?
fine. If he's moved Jack's arm, I would just give a foul. But if he's moved Jack's arm in such a way that Jack might become injured, then yes, card.
I agree with that. Moving onwards.
I was just going to say, I think it also depends on the force of the strike down.
So
if it was
if
quite
you look
fast.
if you look at the water just being around, that looks like a fair old smash. Also, the speed Bob's hand is moving at, it's not solid, it's blurred, so it's moving pretty fast. Anyway, moving on.
With the freeze frame, is there a danger of everything looking a bit worse than it maybe actually is in reality?
Possibly, yes. You just have to go with what you see at the time.
A lot of these are kind of somewhat clear-cut examples, but I think Ross has got a couple of videos as well that
I do
might make
indeed.
it a bit awkward to try and work out what's going on. So we'll get through these and then we'll have a look at some videos.
So very quickly, I can tell you number 78 did have the ball just before this photo. It's on a sprint start. So in other words, 78 had clear possession of the ball before number 7 arrived. And yet we can see fairly hard, significant contact. And we're still paddling forwards. So what are we calling here?
Illegal kayak tackle.
Illegal kayak
Definitely
tackle.
a card.
Yeah, we're going. I think we're agreed it has to be a card. We talking green or yellow because there was definitely time to avoid this contact. Gavin had the ball, So like sometime before he arrived, but
Tackle.
still no avoiding contact. So green or yellow?
Is it coming up the front of his boat or actually into his body?
Into his body.
Yellow.
Yellow.
Yeah, I can still hear the little scream. Gavin, you there? Can you confirm?
I can confirm it wasn't a little scream.
Yeah,
It should have been red.
I was being kind. I'm on the naughty books yet. Next, what's happening here?
Reaching over the other player's boat, and you can see your paddle making contact with the front of the boat.
In a controlled manner, or like arguably quite aggressive?
There's a lot of water spray, so arguably quite aggressive, and also that's not a happy look that you've got on your face.
Yeah, I don't think Poppy looks too happy either.
Yep.
Okay, so what are we giving me? I'll stay on this one.
Obstruction or a paddle, Phil?
I would
would-
say a warning though.
I think I'm
I
not
think
sure
if
about.
you
I think it's heat of the moment.
So
Certainly,
a question you could ask yourself is, if you just call a foul, do you think he'd do it again? Do you think if you carded him, do you think he would think about doing it again?
I think I'd probably say that referee's too strict.
I would give a warning, and then if I saw it again, even to like a lower level, then I definitely would be like maybe a card afterwards.
The mitigation for Ross here is that Poppy's got her hands on her paddles. If Poppy had been reaching for the ball, then it becomes a dangerous
Yeah.
foul. At the moment, it's deliberate. It's not dangerous. If Poppy's reaching for the ball, it becomes deliberate and dangerous, and therefore I would card
I
it.
agree.
If this is his second foul, then it also becomes a card. If it's a first foul, then it's just a foul, and you make a mental note that he's on thin ice.
Yeah. Cool. Next one. Is Jack doing anything illegal here?
Legal kayak tackle,
Why?
because his boat is pretty much over the spray deck of the person in yellow.
Depends if
Not
the guy dipped,
really.
I'd say.
Anybody
It's not
else?
paddling.
If
I
Jack's
think
clearly
Jack-
not paddling, so if he stopped paddling and that's just where he's landed on the tackle, then no. And it also looks like Jack's got the ball.
So I would argue that Jack is not actually on the guy's spray deck. He's very close to it, but he's also going to go over in one very quick motion and is not risking injuring that player. Anybody want to argue?
I see where you're coming from, where it's very close, but I think from what I'm seeing, it might just barely be tipping over into where the spray deck is.
Yeah, no, you could well be right. I mean, this is the whole point about refereeing. It's very subjective.
I think if you've seen this in video, if you think both players are moving, you can see the guy in the yellow helmet is also moving from the wake coming off his kayak behind him. So if you could rewind this photo, then you would probably find that both kayaks contacted probably near the nose, but both are traveling, perpendicular to each other. So they're always going to get closer. So the initial contact of the two boats is probably nose on nose, in which case it's just inertia that's brought them close. So there's no foul.
Yeah, could all be right. Next one, very old. Love the tape on number 2's helmet there. What we calling here? Leaning.
It'd be a legal hand
Well,
tackle.
bit of
That's what's
everything.
happening first. So it would be to the white
Illegal
ball
bend.
first.
So this is another one where you're right, because he is leaning, so that is a foul. But why is number 2 leaning on this boat? What caused them to lean?
4 went in number 2.
Yeah. So it's really easy sometimes. I've done it myself, where you call illegal holding and you temporarily forget what caused it. You just miss it because the leaning on a boat is so easy and obvious. But sometimes you miss the bigger foul.
Before you change off this slide, does anyone else notice anything about in this picture that's maybe unsafe?
Number 4's helmet, the guard doesn't look like it's actually covering his chin.
Good spy.
Choose paddle.
What about it?
looks like it's managing to get through the squares of number 4's face guard and actually touching him in the face.
Yeah, it's certainly very close to his face.
Is that a deliberate action from number 2?
Nope.
Not deliberate for number 2, but I think it's probably an equipment issue for number 4.
Okay. Anything else before we move on quickly? Moving on. What are we calling here?
Oh, professional.
Look at where we are here. Watch directly in front of our Danish player here.
The
The
goal.
goal.
Goal. Is there any goalkeeper? Doesn't look like it.
No.
So what's our number 2 trying here?
I say a red card.
Quite possibly, yeah. That's a very I really don't want you to score this goal. Have we looked at his paddle
Very
yet?
unprofessional.
Look at the paddle.
Yeah, he's multitasking with the fouls.
Yeah.
I would say ejecting red.
Yeah, I would agree. I would eject that.
Yeah.
Do you expect that kind
Professional.
of behavior from the top level athletes in the world?
Yeah, I mean, if anybody knows that this particular player didn't stop there and then later in the tournament used his blades in the exact same position on someone's neck when he couldn't reach to push them. So
How is it
I hope
that
you've got
one?
that video.
I do not have it for this, but if people oh, for goodness sake, I'll find it.
No, just finish this and we'll do
okay,
it in the next
right.
the next call.
I really feel aggrieved here. I feel like Mark Stillings is fouling me really badly. Am I right? Go on, be honest. I mean,
What was the question, sorry?
He's on top of my spray deck. You know, how's this not a foul? Tell me.
Because he's not paddling.
He's in
Yeah, but
possession.
he's still on my deck. How's he got there?
Number 4 could have dipped, causing the other player to end up on top of them because it doesn't look like they're paddling. It looks like they're trying to look around and try and gauge a shot to a teammate.
Absolutely bang on. I have dipped under Mark here. That is entirely my doing. No foul whatsoever. What about this? So there's no boat. Okay, I didn't notice the boat. We'll ignore this blue blob here. Pretend that's not there. Yeah. Okay, so Mike's going to fall into open water. Is this legal?
Your
No,
hand around the front.
the position of the thumb, mate, it's grabbing rather than pushing.
Very good.
Could just be the photo though.
Yeah,
Doesn't
could
like
just be
it's
the
not like
photo.
it's gripped. If it isn't gripped or in any way, he's gone under the arm, under the elbow, which is where you should be, and it's one-handed in open water. But if it is gripping, then that will be a foul.
Yes.
It might be because of the way the other fingers are. They look sort of bent behind the other player's shoulder. That could
You
just be
can,
that
you
we've
can
seen
just, it was moving, being pushed forward though, and that could actually be Bob's hand starting to come back, and he's already made the push.
Yeah.
So this one's really down to the fact that it's a picture and we can't have seen the bit before. But yeah, so this could have been a foul, but it might not be. So yes.
What about this one? He's leaning over the boat there, isn't he?
Illegal
Not
kayak
yet.
because it looks like he's coming in to the other player's hand when they're trying to reach over.
Nope, because it's a tiny angle and the arms doesn't count as part of the body. So
Oh yeah,
Correct.
got that.
Is it
I'd
illegal
say it's
holding
not a
though?
foul.
Depends if he's touching.
No,
that
because
or not. If he's able to get his arm all the way over and he's picking up the ball and not touching the boat, he's fine.
So what if he is touching the boat?
Touching
if
the
he
boat.
is, then it's a foul, like Kim said.
No, it's not. It's got to be gain
No.
support. Would that player in the red buoyancy aid have fallen over if number 3 hadn't been there?
If I was the red player, then absolutely yes.
In this case, would that have happened? Does that red player look unstable, like he's about to fall over?
No, the red player looks relatively balanced. Like their boat looks like it's dipping under a bit, but I don't think they're at this point where they're going to tip over if they isn't there.
What about the paddle that's being held by the red player?
If it goes into number 3, then yes.
Why?
But at the moment, because then it'll be a legal kayak paddle foul. because it'll be hitting.
Oh,
Did number
Surely.
3
What?
paddle themselves into in that position?
Correct. Yeah. So the
Oh,
paddle
okay.
was there before the player arrived. You can see there that number 3 is coming in at speed.
Here's a question. In 2 seconds' time, does that become a reaching foul, or is it
It
because
may well do. So what number 3 could do is draw the foul by pulling their boat away, and the red player can either continue to hold on and get the foul called or drop the ball.
yeah? So if the red player continued to hold the ball and number 3 keeps moving forwards, that becomes reaching over the boat. Yeah.
Also, I don't know if it's the quality of the picture. However, it looks like three's helmet doesn't dip under their chin.
I would tend to agree with you. This is not a recent picture. This is Chad. You know who that is? Jack. Oh well. That is one Simon Madden, who has not played in quite a while. What do we think of the buoyancy in number 3? How high is it?
It's way too high.
Way too high, isn't it? Cool. What about this one?
Pushing the front.
That
of the
is a
shoulder.
foul.
Why is that a foul?
It's pushing
It's
close.
basically the chest.
Legal hand tackle, pushing the front.
So it's a mixed gender sport. We do not push the front of the ball instead of the front of the chest. So yeah, foul from Mr. Redmond there. Now I've hidden something in this one. What's the foul?
Have you edited the ball?
Nope.
God, that's a really weird photo.
It does look really weird. It's a screenshot of a video, probably. That's why.
It looks
Would
like
it
a grapple with a push.
like their hands wrapped around their shoulder.
Yep.
Legal hand tackle.
Where's the ball, guys?
On the person that's binning, so actually it wouldn't even.
So
They
it's
shouldn't even be attempting to bin.
it's actually in between the two boats. So what does that mean? Who's in
Oh.
possession?
Neither.
So is it a legal push regardless of how it's done?
No.
No.
So when it's shared possession, you cannot. Neither player can tackle one another. What about this? What are we calling?
Illegal kayak.
Illegal kayak.
Why illegal kayak tackle?
Because either number one's dipped under the black player, or the black players went over number one. Because it look from the angle of the picture, it looks like the black player's over number one's.
I would agree with that.
So it would be a kayak tackle
Anything else?
for the players, depending on how it's happened.
Anything else? Where is this?
Also, I don't know where his left hand is. Oh, that's at Pinkston.
It is.
It's
This-
into the
this-
cockpit, so although he's not really touching his body as such, like his
It's
torso is
into
still touching his body.
the spray deck, which still counts as a legal kayak tackle.
An additional extension to this would be you can see that there's a foul being committed, but there's also a shot being taken.
And how close to the goal is it?
Very.
Within
So what
six.
we're giving?
Goal penalty shot with the
Correct.
Green
And-
card.
Yeah,
Well,
green card minimum.
as Jack says, though, a shot has been taken. Pause and wait and see if if the shot is scored. Last thing you want to do is blow your whistle too quickly. The goal's scored and you've already blown for a penalty. Give yourself a second to think and let the shot be completed. If the shot is saved, then blow for the penalty, but don't be too quick to blow the whistle.
So if I was really, really quick and sharp in my mind, I might have been able to call advantage or play on right as I saw it happen. But because the shot's been taken, I might not have had time to call play on. And as a referee, I might watch and see what happens to the ball. And if it doesn't go in, I would just blow my whistle for that penalty shot. Or if depending on the angle, it's probably a goal penalty shot, but it could be just far enough away that I deem it's not deliberate, not dangerous. I might foul it, and they get a free shot from there. But it's one of those ones where watching it in motion might have been easier.
Agreed. What about this one? So I'm trying desperately to stay up. What if Ali grabs the ball from me? Is that legal?
It's above your
He doesn't
shoulder.
move around. Yeah, it
In
is.
one motion with no pressure, no downward pressure, then yes.
Am I in the act of passing or shooting?
No, actually.
Correct. So if Ali grabs the ball, he's more than entitled to.
With his hand.
With his hand, yeah, not the paddle, crucially.
Equally, it
That's
could be an illegal holding if you're holding it for more than 5 seconds.
correct, yeah. So
Trying
that
to get up.
illegal possession, yeah, you're right. Perfectly right.
If he uses the paddle to sort of dip the ball out of the player's hand, but without the paddle actually touching the hand, would it count as a foul?
Yes,
Yep,
still
so
within
it's putting the
arm's
paddle in hand's reach. What if he uses the boat to knock the ball out of my hand?
That would be illegal kayak tackle.
Why?
That would be fine.
Well, depending on where he's hit him, it would be illegal kayak tackle, because since that player looks like he's in the process of going over, I don't think it would be legal to ram into him while he's in the process of tipping over.
It's just quite dangerous to have a boat going next to somebody's hand, especially thinking about some people's professions as well.
Hmm.
True, but there is a gap in the rules. So Ross's arm is extended away from his body. So even if number 7, Ali, had decided to hit his elbow to drop the ball with his boat, so he used his boat to hit the elbow of Ross, and it caused the ball to drop. That would technically still be legal because his shoulder, he's not gone over, he's falling over, but he's not completely submerged yet. His head and shoulder is not in the water. So if he hits the arm to knock the ball free with his boat, it is technically still allowed.
Cool. Got a couple
That would
more
be
of these.
very unsporting, though, wouldn't it?
No, that would be
Debatable.
awesome.
I'd be peeved as hell, but I don't think I could call a foul on that if he did that.
I think if it's likely to do damage to the upper arm, you can call a foul on that. But if it's if the boat hits the hand, for example, you'd be probably all right.
I was just going to say Jack's done it to me in the fact that he turned and in the act of turning smacked my hand and the ball out of my hand as it was extended. And as much as I was extremely enraged, I almost said something and then I realized, and because it didn't cause any kind of pressure to anything as well, so it wasn't dangerous either. Really annoying, but legal.
Yeah. What about this?
Illegal. Green
Why
card.
illegal?
You can't bin someone that's on your boat due to them potentially falling off and hurting themselves on your boat. You can push them off with 2 hands using your pushing them off with the boat, but not the actual person. I've had it before.
Anyone want to contest that?
I think it is legal if you're pushing and they're hitting open water. So I mean I've had it against me before. And I've thought it wasn't legal because they managed to launch me enough that it was into open water. But that's correct, isn't it? That if there's no boats or anything like that, then it's legal.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Crucially, it doesn't. You can't see his thumb. Could his thumb
I was
be
gonna say,
wrapped around?
It's a bit of a dodgy thumb position from David.
Yeah, would agree with that. One more. Could I push Devon in right now? Because the ball is within 1 meter of her. Therefore, it's in her control. Can I push her?
Yeah.
There's no boats around her.
There's no boats, yeah.
How long do you think your arms are?
Oh, long enough.
You're not that
I mean,
good.
I'm not even playing this game, but I reckon I can still push her.
No, she's not in possession of the ball.
Well
She's
done.
not in control. Not in control of the ball
Why
because
is
it's
she
in
not
the
in
air.
possession?
So, just to be clear, there's 2 terms that you'll hear often: control and possession. You can only push a person in when it's safe to do so if they're in control of the ball. So that means so it's in their possession and their control. Possession of the ball is when it is within a meter of you and it's not contested by anyone else. So in the water beside you is possession, but not is possession, but not control. Control is when you're physically in contact with it.
Yeah. So the rule about hand tackle says on the water and not in the air. So that's why it's not legal to push Devon in this scenario. Second that ball touches her hand, I'm having her. But not before. Otherwise it's me that gets in trouble. Cool. Has anybody got any more questions before we very quickly move on to some videos?
So I know we're 10 minutes over, by the way. So
Yeah, if
you
anyone wants to drop
it's
out.
okay. And we will be doing this again, and we will try and have some different examples and go through bits and pieces that people have got new experience from playing. And I saw the title of this.
Yeah. We'll ignore that. Right. Why is this not working? Can you see this?
Yes.
Yeah.
My mouse is not working to pause it for some reason. Right. So players in the sub box. Another player is going to come around the back to take the corner and watch what he does. At this point, he's railing, illegal sub ref, illegal sub ref.
Not
What are we calling there?
unsports. I don't think it's the subs' fault. They were in the right place. They've not actively paddled themselves onto the pitch, and they didn't really have an opportunity to avoid it. So I don't think it's their fault.
Depending on how aggressively they've spoken to the ref, it could be unsportsman. But I feel like
You could call both of them for unsportsmanlike conduct.
Both of them.
The sub who's is essentially he's not making he's essentially impeding that player getting into the corner. He does have room to get out of the way should he want to, and he's just sitting there with his paddles up. So one player's trying to get an advantage, get another player sent off for an illegal sub. The other
Can you
player's
play
trying
it again?
to stop the first player from getting into the corner.
Yeah, I'm trying to. It's not really. I'll open it again in 2 seconds. So watch the contact.
Is this all happening in the sub?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really significant.
So
He's
First thing I was aware of was his boat hitting my boat. I didn't even hear him coming.
that, and also it's not really. He can slow down if it's setting up to take a corner. He can slow down and move around the sub if the sub's in an appropriate position. So it's not.
So to clarify, within the rules, if you do not have to make an active effort to get out of the way, provided that you have not put yourself actively in a position that's going to block someone. So in that scenario, Ross as the sub has been sitting there and he's not been moving. It's not his job to get out of the way. The player who's coming on to take the corner, it's their job to not make contact with Ross. So I would say that's very unsporting of them and potentially cardable because of that.
What about this one?
Fending off the hand tackle?
Yeah. So an illegal hand tackle is also. I'd love to know why this isn't letting it again. Yeah. So you cannot fend off a hand tackle, which number 10 clearly does here. Twice. So yeah, that is illegal hand tackle against the white player who has the ball. That's another example of why you really want line judges. I had to watch this 4 or 5 times before I saw how this goal went in. I reckon if you were standing on the 6-meter line, you could have been convinced that goal didn't count. Anybody agree, disagree?
I think because technically it actually hit the net, it would count as a goal.
Yeah, correct. But look how much I'm having to slow it down in order to see that. I reckon if I was the referee, I might have missed that.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ross. I think I would have missed that if I was standing on the 6 meter line.
Nightmare. What about this one?
That's
They
just chaotic.
supposed to another person's boat.
It looks like a multiple foul, so. Because look at where that paddle is.
Yeah, there's a paddle infringement there, very close to the person.
So that's the first foul.
It's awkward, isn't it? Because we're like watching this in super slow motion, and as a referee, it all happens very fast.
What we're thinking at that angle?
Pushed onto the
Definitely an illegal push.
I don't think it looked like its own teammate, though.
I don't think it is because the boats.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah, now I see.
Curiosity. Do you think he's got room to fall in
He's
there?
No, he's literally falling on a boat.
I wouldn't be sure if his head hit the boat there.
Give you a clue. Look what my reaction is immediately afterwards.
Which
I've
one are
ever
you?
found somebody, my hand goes up. It's bad.
Ross is the one who did the pushing in the white bib. But no, agree, it was bad hand tackle and could have easily hit the rest of that boat.
Yeah.
It should also be a car because that was the second foul. You also reached
do
across
you
his
know
boat.
that?
You reached across his boat with your hand
Oh,
at his cockpit area
Jesus.
to
Right.
grab the ball, missed it, then binned him. So
Anybody
fouls
see
in
the
one.
foul there?
Could you do that?
It's really subtle. So this is Jack in the white just in front of the goal.
Unbalancing the ref, it's tipped the refs that they're pointing quite far off to the side when it hit them.
I thought it was number 7 almost leaning on the boat. Or...
Well done, Charlotte. Look what number 7's doing as Jack's trying to gather the ball.
Oh. Yeah,
This is down with all his weight to try and unbalance Jack. See, he can't get to the ball. He's now basically out of the play. So his only play left is to try and unbalance Jack's boat. Now, conveniently, Jack drops his paddle here to stabilize himself.
Was that the pool in York?
It is indeed, yeah. Cool.
Oh, this video.
Yeah, Jack's gonna love this one. He's also gonna growl.
This is obstruction, by the way. I'm just gonna say now because it's hard to see. But look at
Yeah.
this player
Why?
outside the six.
Why is this obstruction, guys? I mean, it's multiple different things simultaneously.
Someone's stopping an attacking player from where they want to go from well outside the 6 meter zone. It's like they've come right up.
So tackling a
And they
player.
don't try and get the ball.
Yeah. So the ball. So look at this player tackling at the Jack on the side of the pool. Where's the ball? Nowhere near either of them.
Not even on camera.
No, but look where the nose of the boat is.
Oh, there it is.
Look where the nose of the boat is, guys. All the way to Jack's spray deck, all the way down.
Rewind it, Ross, to where the obstruction first starts. Watch how far back the obstruction actually starts. It's there.
All the way. So
That's
are
the
we
obstruction
talking
starting there.
penalty here, guys? Because look, there's no goalkeeper. There's like 4 fouls simultaneously, or not simultaneously, but one after the other. So that's foul 1.
It's not a foul until the ball lands in that. As soon as that ball lands
Well,
in the open
actually, I
water there.
would say it is, Gavin, because
Well,
Jack
no, because
is not competing for the ball, and the
Yeah, but-
ball's not within 3 meters.
Yeah, but we can't see what's happening with the ball.
I mean,
So if the ball's being contested,
ball's
then-
back here somewhere.
yeah, but if it's not in Granite team's possession, then
It is.
there's-
Trust me.
I know, but you don't know. But as soon as the
Fair
ball
enough.
lands in open water, then it's a penalty
Yeah. So
and a card.
look at this number 11 coming in. Jack is trying to get there, but he's still got a tail, and number 11's trying to get the ball, so that's obstruction again. Again, the boat is still in Jack's spray deck. So Jack's kind of got control of the ball here. They're both on the spray deck, well, at least one is.
How has this not been called yet?
Nothing gets called.
Until the ball goes off the back of the goal, and then it's a goal line throw for the other team.
There is one more.
Also,
foul.
look
There
at
is
that
one-
bin.
There is
It's
one,
literally on his back.
So that's legal. That's perfectly legal. Back, side, or upper arm,
Oh, okay.
perfectly legal. But there's one foul left, guys, and it's a Kingston foul, so you're gonna have to look really closely.
Is it reaching maybe? Because
Nope.
paddles went over the boat.
Wait till I play this again. It's right at the end, and for some reason I can't actually play it. I can only fast forward or rewind it. Right at the end, there's a very subtle attempt to get the ball back. Watch number 11's paddle. Just as Jack tries to control the ball,
Does it hit him or something?
he flicks. So Jack's trying to control the ball with his paddle, and then he flicks Jack's paddle with his
Water.
paddle. Look,
Oh.
So that's obstruction with the paddle.
look, see? He tries to swipe Jack's paddle, which hits the ball and puts it out.
At which point, the
Them
referee,
Kingston
because of
lot.
the refereeing, decided to call a goal line throw. I was
Yeah.
particularly annoyed. But you know, if you were to look at that video from the outside, the first instance of obstruction right at the start of the video, right up at the pitch, it's still if my team has the ball and I'm obstructed way back there, my team would either get an advantage or get the foul called from the original obstruction, provided that we have the ball, because there's an active attempt to stop me going from where I want to without nowhere near the ball. So there's a lot of fouls in that one.
You remember that number 11 there at the end there? Here he is again. What we're calling here? If anything.
Unsportsmanlike behaviour.
But he's not doing it to anyone.
I
He's
think
doing
no,
it to
it's the
himself.
force. It's the force that he's hitting his paddle off the boat. I think it's just. But yeah.
Does that potentially?
Yeah, I would say it's unsporting, but
Does that potentially look badly on the sport if it's in public?
Yes.
Not that
Yeah,
like
okay.
Wayne Rooney would ever do something like that. Eh?
But if you shout fiddlesticks at the same time, it would negate the aggression, so it'd be fine.
Yeah. Cool. We have one more. This focuses around illegal substitutions. So just a bit of background before we go into it. A substitute must be fully off the pitch before a replacement can come on. But this is not quite what that's about. This is how not listening to the referee can lead to absolute disaster. So, scenario is New Zealand are up by 5, Belgium 3. Emily, have you seen this one?
If it's what I think it is, yes.
Yeah. It's not one New Zealand like to talk about. So, New Zealand have just received a card. They're going to have one player go off on the goal line there. So, they've just come off. So, New Zealand are down to 4, but that's okay. They're 5-3 up with 51 seconds left. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4 white players on the pitch. All as well. They've got a card. The referees are having a bit of a chit chat. We're still timed out. Play isn't in progress. So 1, 2, 3, 4 players in the white. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players in the Belgian boats. You'd think New Zealand have got this in the bag. But sub goes off and is immediately replaced. That's a second card. Another player comes on. 3 cards in a row, and we're down to 2 players. What does that mean?
The game can't continue with only 2 players on one side. So
Game
Belgium.
is forfeit. So card is given here. You can see the referee signaling. That's the first one.
Bear in mind they were playing with 4 players already, so the card was given when they had 4 players. So this is another player going off.
Yeah,
That
it's
that
just
makes
not
more
being.
sense.
It's just I must remember this. It's just not listening to the referee and what's going on. So you can see there, this player just about to go off. He gets off, but then he is immediately replaced. And in that moment, it is game, set, and match. From 5-3 down, Belgium has won that 7-0.
Like we almost had an event similar to this in Div 2 last year. I think I had binned Chris in Monklands, and I think someone was very kindly trying to help him get back on exactly where I'd binned him, rather than him getting back to his sub area. And the referees were being very spot on that day, and somebody had already come on with just his kit off the water, and then it just had a wee bit of a cascade, and we had to, I think we called a timeout to sort it.
So I'm going to share this document really quick before we finish up. So this document, myself and Robert wrote to try and simplify the rule into as few pages as possible. And it kind of has a bit on how to interpret the rules and has some diagrams on various bits and pieces about what's considered possession, as well as some diagrams on what restarting looks like, what's considered out, where you restart, who's the goalkeeper, what's possession if you're upside down, what's illegal use of the paddle and where, various things like referees' balls, and other bits and pieces for like obstruction, illegal kayak tackles. So what I'll do is I'm going to share this document as well to everyone. It's still a bit of reading, but way less than the official rules, and it should help a lot. And just some various descriptions, as well as some other simplifications of the hand signals. So I'll share this, and if anyone has any questions after this, feel free to voice them now, as well as email us or chat to us at any of the league events. Myself, I'll be there and this weekend at Division 3, and then there'll be a few more of us at various league dates all the way up to including the Stramash, when all 3 divisions will be there, and we can help with reffing as well. So don't be afraid to ask questions. So if you do wish to drop, feel free, and I'll stay on for a few more minutes to answer any questions with Ross.
Before people leave, has anybody got any feedback on how that went? That was a very sort of informal chat rather than like a very intense lecture, I hope.
Yeah, I quite
Cool.
like that. The fact that it used English rather than legalese to explain some of the rules was better than what the actual rules are.
Yeah, some of the rules are a bit wordy.
If you'd like to
Really,
on you go, Christopher.
I really enjoyed how you had the examples and diagrams to sort of show what was happening rather than just explaining it and leaving it to our imaginations. I thought that was very helpful and allowed us to better scope the situations, especially during the examples.
If anyone would like a copy of that document and I haven't got their email, feel free to pop it in the chat, and I'll send you a copy of the email of that simplification, and we can also send a copy of the slides as well.
you send me a copy, Jack? It'd be good to share around the club.
Sounds good.
Cheers, dude.
Any improvements that you think can be made to this, just fire them at us and we'll work on it.
Well, thanks. Good night, all.
Right. It's probably a good
Cheers,
idea.
Ross. Cheers, Jack.
No worries.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Jack.
Bye.
Good night. Thank you,
Thank you.
and Ross.
No worries. Hi. Thanks for running that, Ross. You're welcome. I've got a draft in the Google Gmail with the stuff attached. So when you've got a chance, chuck in the slides and then just send it. Okay. And I've got everyone's emails on it. So thanks again for running that. Was that okay? Oh yeah, it was fine. There was like I very much like chucked it together. Oh yeah, but it's one of those things that like you feel like you're talking too fast to cover all the rules in depth, but you're also not talking fast enough to get through them all, but you're also not leaving enough room for them to ask questions. Yeah, I mean you could bet that for hours. Yeah, I think the next one, if when we do, we'll go more into the interpretation of play. That's fine. But yeah, right. So there's a draft in the Google Drive, not the Google Drive, in the Gmail, and just attach your slides and then send it when you're done. Sounds good. It's in the inbox at the bottom under me, Jackie, draft, referee, introduction course, and rules run through. So you should be able to just find it instantly. Thanks again, Ross. Have a good night. You too. Bye. Bye.